Hello, everyone. Welcome to Osquery Office Hours. It is April 23rd. It is a nice spring day here in Boston, although pre-meeting conversation tells me not so much in Milan. And hopefully it's a wonderful April where everyone is. Announcements and highlights since the last meeting. Probably first announcement is we decided that 5.12.1 is stable. Though I should note that I need people to approve PRs so that it becomes stable on the website. So that's a side note.
I can do that for sure.
There's like three of them I pasted into Core a little while ago. I think they're all very boring.
Okay, great. I will do that.
Other announcements? Okay. Next section of our meeting is an open section for questions, issues, PRs people want to discuss. The intent here is to provide any drop-in community members a chance to raise things that they didn't feel merited an agenda item. You all look like usuals, so we'll just move on. Okay. I added 3 agenda items, and I think Zach had one. Maybe there's another hiding in a PR someone put up. So I'll start. Collide rolled out 5.12.1 broadly after we declared it stable, and we started seeing some ATC problems in it. I haven't debugged them yet, but it smells like... So the way Launcher and Collide works is Osquery runs, and Osquery has a config plugin, which is Launcher. Launcher hands it a config. And 5.12 stopped registering ATC tables for us. We see a logged message saying the ATC tables was registered, but when we query it, we get nothing. So we've started trying to understand what's happening there. I don't know if anyone else has seen that yet. Kind of just wanted to mention it.
Haven't noticed that on our end, but let me bring that up as something that we'll ask our QA folks to check on.
Do you ship ATC tables, and do they come in via the TLS or via config plugin?
If I remember correctly, we don't ship them by default, but certainly many of our customers use them, and they would configure them via the TLS config plugin.
Okay, so that may be different enough. A really simple test that didn't reproduce for us was just to use a local config file with the ATC tables. That worked fine. So I'm wondering if there's something a little racy in in the way the plugins generate them. And we also, there was a PR that touched this in the registration flow. So I'm wondering if that PR fixed a bug that uncovered a race condition, one of those things.
Interesting. Okay, well, what I'm going to do is I'll file an issue for our team to investigate, but that would kind of just cover our flow.
We're starting to dig into it. At some point, I'll file a real bug. So this is kind of like a heads up.
Okay, thank you.
Let's see, Zach will file a fleet issue to see if it impacts that. We had an interesting other question related to 5.12, which is, so as folks know, XZ had some issues. And the current code points to a non-existent repository. That got fixed. But we haven't cut a release. So you currently can't build the stable version of Osquery. So we could either cut a 5.13 or maybe we could cherry pick the XZ fix and make a 512 too. I wonder if people have any opinions there.
In the immediate term, my understanding is we were unaffected by the
Yeah, we're
issue
totally
in
unaffected.
XZ.
It just breaks the builds.
I mean, my inclination would be to just like fix it on our main development branch and then just build it into 513 whenever we're ready to release a 513 as normal.
That's what we do. That's what we've done.
Okay.
But
Do
there's
we need to do more? It sounds like you feel like we need to do more.
someone requested it on a ticket.
Oh. Did they explain why like being able to build main or master is like insufficient?
Didn't ask.
Okay.
I assume they're just trying
Uh,
to build the stable release. And
Question, is it still broken? Because the repository is actually back on GitHub.
It's back.
Tukani dash project xz. Yeah.
Does the Git Shaw still line up?
That I haven't checked, but I hope so. Would hope so. Let's see. I mean, there has been. So this is the SHA. I mean, yeah, the committee is there. Yeah, the committee is there, and it's the expected one.
Okay. I'll just push back on that issue then, and we could do nothing here.
Yeah, I was surprised that it reappeared. I think it happened like, yeah, no, a week ago or something like that. Probably more, but and maybe I mean, these subsequent question we should maybe move, I guess, back to it just for stability of the CI.
Are we seeing CI instability?
No, not right now.
I say we leave it.
But yeah.
Okay. Those were my various 512 items. Zach, you wanted to raise TSC membership.
Yeah, the thing I wanted to raise is like, I think as kind of everyone knows, we've had a number of inactive TSC members that we've left on the roster for quite some time. And I think we've done that because we love those people and we wish that they would start contributing to the project again. And we have had hopes that they would do so. My thought at this point though is that some of those people look like they're probably relatively permanently done with contributing to the project, and I'd love to bring some more people onto the TSC who are more currently involved. And I'd also and this is not just for TSC membership, this is also for committers. So I guess my goal would be in kind of two phases, to first kind of remove committers and TSC members who've been inactive for a long time and who have don't declare any intention to become active again, which I would propose to do by just reaching out directly to those people. I can't remember exactly who's on the list, but I think the top candidates for that are probably like Groove and Teddy.
Are we talking committers or TSC?
Both. If
Oh,
they're
well,
committers,
different lists. So
yeah. I mean, I think that we should look at both lists and do this. And my goal would be to refresh both of them such that the people who are on them are active. And for committers, I know there are a couple of people at Fleet who I'd like to get on the committers list, namely probably Victor and Lucas, who've both been contributing pretty consistently to Osquery now for a while. Not that we have to discuss those two individuals at this moment, but I'm just kind of throwing them out as an example. I imagine there may be other people at other organizations that folks would like to throw out for those kind of things. But again, it's not my intention to actually have that conversation at the moment. My intention is to talk about like a process for getting there. Then the other thing would be, when thinking about how the TSC looks at the moment, I know that in the past we tried to invite Stefano, and Stefano, you declined. I'd love to re-extend the invitation to Stefano. And again, we don't have to discuss that immediately right now, and but also kind of in the spirit of that, I'd love to consider the possibility of like having two people from each of Trail of Bits, Collide, and Fleet on the TSC, so that we have kind of a more robust TSC membership that reflects the organizations that are the most active in doing it. And by in doing it, I mean in working on the Osquery.
I'm broadly in favor of all of this. I don't have a whole lot to say. I think we didn't really clean out inactive members because we weren't sure if they would stay inactive, and because there isn't a super pressing reason to. Just declaring, it's been long enough, let's try and look more active, sounds like a solid enough reason to me. One of the things I feel like I think occasionally is that I feel like I haven't been good at recruiting new people into Osquery. I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to get people excited about it. We see companies using Osquery, but like they're sort of using it at a distance. And I feel like I'm often reminded of the XKCD cartoon of, some giant ecosystem supported on one small software project.
Yeah. Yeah. I completely agree with that sentiment. One of the things that comes to mind for me is the our general lack of responsiveness to PRs that people submit. And I think that there are people who have tried to contribute and become dissuaded perhaps while things sat around for a while. Particularly, I can think of like some of the folks at Figma who've put in half a dozen or more PRs over the last year and spent a long time waiting on reviews and that kind of thing. I think that's I think that's the kind of thing that could probably be improved by having more active committers, possibly moving towards making those people committers as well. But also, I think that if we could get more people at Fleet onto the committers list, I could probably work with our new CTO at Fleet to kind of make it some folks' responsibilities at Fleet to actually be on top of reviewing PRs and try to help with engagement in that way. And then I think that, we could also then, when we see people start to become consistent contributors, make them the offer to make them committers, or at least set an intention to make them committers after they've, continued to contribute in consistent ways over some time.
A year ago, I would be totally in favor of this. With the things happening in XZ land, I'm like, whoa, how do I evaluate humans? So I'm in favor, but I have this question. It's much easier for me to evaluate Fleet employees, right, or Trail of Bits employees. It's much harder for me to evaluate Figma, or someone purporting to be Figma. And I don't know how to square that circle.
Yep, that is understandable to me as well, and I guess I don't have a totally thorough understanding of the situation, but my understanding of the situation with XZ, for example, is that the sort of one person who was responsible for merging commits became so overwhelmed that eventually they threw their hands up and said, fine, you person who look helpful, you can just do whatever you want. And I think that my intention here is to try to kind of prevent us from ever getting to that by having a handful of people who, by the rules that we've set up into our repos, have to approve each other's PRs. And hopefully we'll be looking with a critical eye as they do that at what's being changed. But yeah, that does not reduce the risk entirely, and making it a criteria that it be someone from Collide or Trail of Bits or Fleet doesn't reduce it entirely either. And we know that there are nation state level actors out there who could choose to approach any one of us with large sums of money or other coercive means to try to get us to do bad things in this project. So I don't think that we can obviate the risk entirely, but I do feel that like building community and building more engagement is likely to actually to build us more defenses.
Yeah, no, I'm in favor. I just sort of hold that in my head of like, how can we be cognizant of that, and what does that mean?
Understandably so. Yeah. Okay, so it sounds like what I'd like to do is, as a next step, I'm gonna look at the TSC membership list. I'm gonna reach out to people who haven't been active for a while and ask them if they have any intention of being active, and tell them that we would love to have them, because I think that really is the case, is that all those people are still here because we wish they'd come back. And so make like a sort of a last ditch effort at getting them to come back. And then if not, I would like to do whatever we formally need to do to remove them from the TSC. And then I would like to consider adding some folks to the TSC, in particular by giving each of our companies who are very active a chance to put up one more seat if we want to, or any other process that folks feel like would be appropriate. Maybe having a small TSC is actually even better, but increasing the committers list, or at least removing some people who are inactive and adding some people who are active. I think the most important thing is for the health of the project immediately is the committers list. But I also think that for the health of the project in the longer term, and for the benefit of the careers of the people working on it, and therefore also their engagement, I think getting people into the TSC matters. And that's in particular why people think of people like Stefano, who effectively does all of the work of a TSC member, but doesn't get to have that on his resume, for example. But anyway, not to pressure you, Stefano. I know you have your own thoughts and opinions about this, and we can talk about it more later.
I think we don't need a lot of
Yeah,
process here. Sorry, you go on.
No, was just a brief comment. Yeah, I will. There are several things pulling in different directions. So yeah.
From a process perspective, the last time we talked about this, we concluded that there was nothing in our charter that prescribed process, and we could do whatever we thought was viable for some suitable set of we. My recollection is that Groob has effectively ceded his position. He was like, yeah, y'all can remove me whenever. And he doesn't expect to ever come back, which makes us sad, but that's our reality.
Yeah.
The last communication I think we had with Teddy was that he thought he would have time for Osquery. As we see, that hasn't quite panned out. Though there are rumors of a Laceworks acquisition, which might change his time, so who knows?
Right.
Nick is occasionally active. He sort of pops in and out. He's still pretty involved in the Windows code signing process. I haven't seen Charvel recently, so I don't know what's going on with Charvel. I assume he sort of comes in and out based on who's paying him, but maybe you have more information.
I don't know. I think that it's probably as you say, Seth.
That's everyone on the TSC that I see. I suspect I'm pretty sure the committers list is very similar.
Okay, so it sounds like there's agreement to this, so I'm gonna take it upon myself to initiate some communications, and then I'll probably file like issues like the way I did in the past for nominating people to the TSC. I'll probably file issues to for removing people from the TSC, and I'll note, what communication I had with them, and then ask for uh, members to
Yep.
vote via their comment on the issues. And for the committers list, I think perhaps a similar process, maybe lighter weight. Maybe we can all actually review the
Just do
committers
it.
list together on a meeting and just make the changes.
Yeah, that seems fine. For TSC, issues should land in foundation. And if we not in foundation, not Osquery. And I would maybe also say that we should figure out where we list the TSC and maybe create an alumni list there.
That makes sense.
And I forget if we have a list of people in like a README or a contributing guideline or something. I don't know,
Yeah,
make something up and be reasonable.
that totally makes sense. And yeah, I see the election of Charville was something that I did in the foundation repo. So yeah, I think the foundation repo for the TSC membership makes sense. And probably also when we do make changes to the committers, we could document it in an issue in the foundation repo. But then I think we should also publicly list the TSC members along with the alumni and the committers. I would say probably in the README of the main repo.
Seems legit.
Okay, great. Thanks, Phil.
Thanks for raising it. People want to talk about anything else? Tell you, someone put up a PR to add some additional fields to the Osquery SSH keys table. And they added bit length fields. Pretty cool. But they added them as strings because they didn't like how the integer macro worked. So it seemed kind of interesting. Their comment was that the integer macro reuses memory space. So they have to like reinitialize it to 0 a lot. And I don't know if this is intentional or if it's just like weird or if they're confused. But maybe one of you people looking like you know more than I do would like to weigh in on that conversation.
It doesn't. I only looked at the discussion. It doesn't track for me. I mean, it's just calling a function that takes so like the value is already taking it as an integer, is transforming it to a string, then through the macro integer or big int, he has to retransform it. Actually, no, sorry. I was mixing two of the things he attempted. So he is reading it as an integer and transform it manually with the toString function into string. And then when you pass that string with integer or big int, it does nothing because it's already a string. So that the macro is only there to document what kind of type is going in. But there's also no check that matches it actually on the spec. So I'm not sure what they are talking about, and necessarily because again the macro does nothing if it's already string. The function simply takes the integer they have passed in and transform it to a string, and yeah, that's it. So yeah.
So I haven't seen any of this discussion, but based on what I've heard from you guys, my inclination would be we ask them to follow the pattern that's used everywhere, and if they want to see that change, then they file a blueprint issue to change the way the pattern is globally, and we discuss it in office hours, or they just come to office hours and discuss it.
Yeah, I think that an additional So more than the issue on using the macros, it seems that the other point they were making is that if you keep the columns as integers in the spec also, then you can pass like empty values. And even there's something that doesn't fully track for me, but anyway, they say that if the function they use to get the values does not return security length or something, they are forced to set 0, while instead they can avoid that by using a text field which supports being empty. And for this part, I maybe misremembering, but I think I recall that if you don't set, like if you don't even create the key in the map, it shouldn't end up being seen as null, so an empty no result basically, and so even with the integer column should in theory end up empty, but I may be misremembering that. Yeah, I mean I'm just mentioning that there was also this second part that it has to be evaluated because it has merit. Just we have to make sure if it's actually possible to do that also with an integer column. Apparently they were saying that's not the case, but yeah.
The concern is whether you can like set something to null in an integer column.
No, it was like if it was null, it would reuse what was set last time. I have no idea.
Sounds weird.
But I do know that like we have a lot of places in our code where we set a 0 and then we do that. So maybe, I don't know, maybe there's something to it, or maybe they're confused.
I think there are two different things. One is how to get properly the values into the column, and the other is if I use, maybe I'm wrong, but if I use the integer type, I cannot have the output of the table have an empty value when I'm unable to extract any value, like any security length from the key itself. And on your mention, Seth, yes, we are not really consistent in using null when something did not, we are unable to get it. Sometimes we return like the default value 0 explicitly, or explicitly -1, or sometimes we simply decide not to set anything. And I keep forgetting what that's the part at least I forget what it does, what we have done automatically in the code that takes no value and makes it to something for integers or for strings. For strings, well, it's easy. It should be in theory always an empty string. But yeah, then connected to that, there's also the whole issue with querying nulls. But,
I would love to see us improve, our empty value handling for sure, but it doesn't sound to me like adding a couple of columns to one table is the venue for having that discussion. But I do think that we should encourage that person to bring their ideas, either by documenting an issue or by coming to this meeting, or both.
Yep.
Okay. I'm happy to try replying to that effect. Someone else is welcome to get to it before me. The usual. But I'll try and get to it the next day or two if I haven't had, if no one else has answered yet. Anyone want to talk about anything else, or should we reclaim half an hour?
Guess sounds like we
Okay.
should probably reclaim.
So be it. Wonderful to see you all. Thank you for your ongoing time, code review, and beating the drum of getting more people in. So
Awesome. And Seth, I reviewed your PRs, approved 2 of them. One, I think there might be an issue. I asked a comment on it, and just let me know.
okay, I will. You didn't like my. I'll try. I don't know what's going on with the Macwin. Maybe I forgot to move the directory. You're probably right.
Yeah, I think I just double check that.
Yeah, I'll double check that. I mean, like the build should fail, right?
Does seem like the build should fail, but I don't know. I didn't see that the file was moved, and it seems like it should matter. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'll look at it. It sounds like a simple error. It sounds like a simple oversight if I, in fact, made that mistake.
Yeah, or I could just be wrong. So let me know.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Bye, y'all.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.